Everybody, Brandy here doing my comments from my Stampin' Studio today. Today I have a really pretty card that we're going to be making utilizing the Snow is Glistening stamp set, the Buffalo Check background stamp, and the thinlits that go with Snow is Glistening, and I can't remember what the name of them are. Nope, that's not it. My studio is a mess right now, so I'll get that name for you later. Anyway, here is the card, and we're going to be making this in the Coastal Cabana color, so I'm really excited about that. Now, after the video is over, stick around because I've got a surprise to share with you all. All right? All right, let's get started. Let me turn the camera around. All right. Today, again, we're going to be making this beautiful Christmas card, and we're going to be using a couple of different stamp sets. The Snow is Glistening. We're going to use several of the stamps that are in that stamp set, and then of course we're using the Buffalo Check background. Now I will tell you that when I first started working with this Buffalo Check background stamp, I had kind of a difficult time doing getting a clean, crisp image, and so I did some researching and found different ways that people are doing it, and then just sort of kind of made it my own. I'm not doing it exactly the way everybody else does it. At least I haven't seen this exact technique, but there's lots of different ways of doing it. Do a search on YouTube or Pinterest and you'll find lots of different ways. But I'm going to show you the way that I like to do it, and hopefully this will save you a lot of time. Now, one thing that I'm going to mention to you is that when you use the stamp, you're going to pay attention to the edges of the stamp, and you'll notice that on this side, it's kind of like an open-ended border check, and this side, it's closed. And I guess you could extend this check, beyond that. But for this card, we're just going to be making one little back panel. And let's see here. Now, because the panel that we used on this card is 4 by 5 1/4. I couldn't figure out how to get the image stamped, one, without using the Stamparatus. You could, place your card paper down and then, gently, or actually, I'm sorry, ink up your stamp set and then place the card, just so, and lay it down there and kind of make sure that it gets everywhere. But to me, that's a little bit risky, if you can get risky in making cards. But it's risky because I don't trust myself to be able to stamp it exactly right. And if I needed to reapply ink, I'm kind of, left on how to salvage the card. So I really think that this is where your Stamparatus comes in very handy. Now, I will tell you that because you want to get the whole entire card panel stamped, you want to actually make your paper longer than what you need. All right, and so in this case, I'm going to be actually stamping 2 panels here, and this is going to be basically half of a cardstock sheet, the 8.5 by 11. Now, before I put my paper down on my Stamparatus, I've set it up so, and actually I just realized, oh, these magnets scare me because I keep getting them together and they keep breaking on me. You don't need your foam pad for your Stamparatus because this has the foam already. You would use this if you're going to be using a photopolymer stamp. All right, so I've got my little piece of grid paper here, and we sell the grid paper that is specifically cut to the size for your Stamparatus, but I just basically took some leftover grid paper that I had used in a class and cut it down to a 7 by 7. Now, what I want to make sure is that how I'm aligning my paper versus my my stamp. And so basically I want to stamp this side and then I want to stamp that side. So I'm going to orient my paper long ways this way and then my stamp long ways this way. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to position my my stamp here on my Stamparatus plate, I guess that's what you call it, and I'm going to ink it up, and then I'm going to, you know, just ink this corner right here because I just want to get a place that I'm going to line up my paper. So we're going to be using Coastal Cabana, and I want to make sure first that this is stuck onto the pad. I can just, yeah, all right, so that is well clinging to that plate. All right, now I just need the corners, that corner stamped right there, so I don't have to waste the ink and doing the entire thing, because I'm basically, what I'm doing here is just getting a little an alignment on the paper where I'm going to put down the cardstock. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cardstock now. Let me have that dry a little bit. All right, I'm going to take my cardstock and I'm going to line him up. You see right there? I'm going to line it up as best as I can, as straight as I can, because this is going to kind of ensure that I get a straight on stamp. All right, so now I'm going to ink up my entire pad. And again, you can do this however you want. I have seen some other techniques, but I think I've tried, you know, a lot of different techniques, and this is what works for me. All right. Okay, so then I'm going to do even pressure. All right. And if I'm happy with that, which actually looks pretty good, but I'm just going to go ahead and ink it up just one more time. I re-inked this pad, and I think I've made it a little bit wet or foamy, so I'm getting a little bit of that foam image there. A bubbled image. I don't know what, you know. My words always seem to escape me when I'm making these videos. All right, that looks better. Okay, now you could go through and just trim this, you know, to meet your 4 inches this way and be done with it. But I'm going to, you know, just basically stamp the other side. And so with my grid paper still down, I'm going to go ahead and line him up. Put my magnets down to hold that. All right. Everything now, you know, if you see there, I'll put that up there. I didn't exactly line that up evenly, so I'm going to reposition that paper. Oh, shoot. See what happens? Those magnets are really, really strong. All right, hold on. And they're very difficult to get apart. Well, all right, I'll work on that later. All right, one magnet should be enough. All right, so while I've got this down, okay, I'm gonna go ahead, oops. I got ink on the plate, and I don't want to transfer that. I'm very, okay, all right, here we go. Let's move that out of the way. There, that looks good. All right, so then basically I've got a full sheet here. Now, let me put this away, because I don't think I'm going to be using the Stamparatus for the rest of this card. I'm going to get my paper trimmer out. And so this is already 5 1/4, so all I want to do is cut this down to 4 inches. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm going to cut this down to 4 inches. And then I'm going to turn this around, because this is kind of the bad end of the stamp, the stamped image. Then I'm going to trim that. And then voila! I have 2 buffalo check background stamped images there. So that'll work. All right, let me get this out of the way. Okay. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to stamp the white embossing powder on the tree. Okay, I'm back. I wanted to make sure I got my embossing powder and all of that set up. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I want to prepare my paper. I'm going to use my embossing powder buddy. And this basically is just going to kind of clean off the surface of the card, and that way I'm reducing the risk of having embossing powder adhere to places where I don't want it to. We're going to use our Versamark. I think it's easier with these larger stamps is to put the stamp down and then ink it from the top. Okay. All right. Now, let's see here. Just set that down there. And then I'm gonna just basically put it right on top, press down, get a nice even image. Okay, I think that looks good. It's hard to tell with the Versamark, but I use my nice handy dandy coffee filters, and then I've got my little spoon here. I've got another video to how I store embossing powder. I'll link down below for you to take a look at that. But basically I'm just going to hold this over, and I'm just going to let the powder go into the coffee filter. And I didn't quite get enough, so I'm going to reapply. Give a nice little tap. That looks great. That looks really good. All right. Can go ahead and pour this back in. Close that up. And then I use my little duster to clear off any excess powder. And I'm going to use my heat gun, my heat tool. Now, as you heat up that embossing powder, it becomes shiny, and that's when you know that it's set. I don't know if you can kind of tell there. All right, now, to cut that out, we can do one of two things. We can fussy cut it with the scissors, or we can use our paper trimmer, and I think this will make it look a little bit more finished. So we're going to use our paper trimmer, and we're just basically going to line this up with the track. And let me put my glasses on, make sure I've done this correctly. All right, just want to make sure that you're not cutting off the image. And so I'm gonna stick it up just a tad bit more. Yeah. And then you can go ahead and you can trim it a little bit more if you want. Didn't quite get it evenly cut. There. That looks much better. All right, I'm gonna do the same over here. Just gonna trim that just a little bit more. I've always found that it's easier to take your blade up top and pull down rather than to go forward. I don't know why. Don't know the science behind that, but it does seem to work better for me. Oops. You want to make sure that paper is going to stand still while you cut it. Yeah, that looks much better. All right, then we're just going to do the bottom. Ta-da! And there you go. Looks like a perfect triangle. All right, let's take that out of the way. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to die cut the star. All right, so I'm not going to pull the Big Shot over into the camera, but I am going to show you the sandwich that I use. So I'm using the Big Shot platform. Then I'm using the thin die adapter. And I attempted to do this at first just using the cutting plate, but I discovered that the image wasn't quite coming out. This, I believe, is a retired product. It's our Glimmer Dazzling Diamonds Glimmer paper. And so I just used a thin piece of chipboard to kind of give it a little bit more of leverage. And that helped me to get a more clean cut out. I do want to let you know that you probably want to roll it forward, roll it back a couple of times, lift it up just to make sure that it looks like it's going to be a clean cut before you take the die away. Because if it's not a clean cut and the die is exactly where it was, you can just rerun it again and see if you can get a cleaner cut. All right, I'm going to pause the video here. I'm going to go cut this out and then I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. And so this is just to give you an idea. I haven't moved the die, but as I'm looking in the back, it looks like it's going to be a pretty clean cut. I don't have to worry about that. I will tell you that as I put that extra piece of chipboard in there, it is a little bit difficult to crank through, but I think in the end, you know, it really does help to have that extra piece of shim. But try it out with yours. Mine, you know, may be just really loose. My Big Shot might be loose because of so much use. So just, you know, just to let you know. All right, so next thing I got to do is I need to poke this guy out. And this is the long part. So I'm probably going to fast forward through this part so you don't have to sit here and watch me do this. All right, let me get a chair. So I just take a little poker or whatever, and I just sort of, you know, poke out all of the little pieces. We do have a brush that you can use to get these out. Let me see if I have it. I thought I did, but who knows where it's at, so just gonna make do with what I've got. I love this paper. I wish I had bought more of it because I don't think it's in the annual catalog. I may have to try to figure out where I can get it elsewhere. But it's, you know, it's a kind of a nice, pretty white glimmer it's very sparkly. and the glitter is very fine. So it's easier to cut with. Your glitter paper that has very big coarse glitter flecks can be kind of hard on your paper trimmers and your dies and stuff. But I really love this paper. I should have gotten more. Okay, that's done. All right, then I just have to clean up my mess here. And I guess you could keep these little bitty pieces to use in shaker cards. That would be cool. All right, just clean up a little bit here. Now, I will tell you that I am going to keep the negative image that this die has cut out. One, I could use it in a card, but two, I could also use all of this extra space to have if I have other smaller die cuts that I want to use this paper with. So I never get rid of this large of a piece. I'm just going to set that to the side. All right, the next thing we want to do is we want to stamp the embossed image here on the vellum. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to stamp the sentiment with the Coastal Cabana color ink. And then I'm going to put clear embossing powder over it. And that's going to give us a raised sentiment that's going to be in the color that I want. I don't have Coastal Cabana embossing powder, so this is going to be the next best thing. All right, so let's see here. Where's my stamp? All right, now I have measured this out for it to be 1 inch by 4 2/4. Not 2/4. That would be 4 1/2. 4 1/4. And I want to make sure that I get this as centered as possible because I'm going to use my triple banner punch. And I've measured it so that I can just do it on each end equally and it will come out. But the likelihood of me being able to stamp this exactly in the center is not, so I may have to make do. All right, so let's go ahead and use our embossing buddy. Get that all dried and cleaned. I'm going to stamp up my sentiment with the Coastal Cabana ink. Coastal Cabana ink. That looks good. And I'm going to get my coffee filter ready. Get my clear embossing powder ready. All right. And I want to use a piece of paper here in case I accidentally stamp off the vellum so I don't get ink on my pad there. All right, let's try this one more time. Now you want to do this a little bit and you don't want to dilly-dally when you're doing this because I don't want the ink to dry fast. Let's see if I can get this stamped on right. There we go. I don't want the ink to dry, so I want to do this kind of fast. I'm going to use this because as soon as that ink dries, then I won't be able to get that powder to stick where I want it to stick. Okay, so let's put that away. All right, then I'm going to bring my heat tool back in. Now this is vellum, so you probably only want to use your first heat setting on your tool. And just take your time with it. It may take a little bit longer for it to start to set up. There we go. And that looks good. All right, it's nice and shiny. All right, so let me close this ink up. Okay, and as I mentioned, we're going to use our triple banner. Now, if you heat the vellum too much and it starts to bow and stuff, here's a trick. You can use one of your glass blocks to just sort of lay on it to make it go flat. So while we're waiting on that to kind of flatten out a little bit, we're going to go ahead and cut the white banner that's going to go behind the vellum. So I'm just going to use my triple banner punch. I'm going to turn it upside down. I'm going to insert that, make sure I get that point in the middle right there. Looks good. Looks good. All right. Now let's see if I stamp this as centered as I can. That looks good. Now this side is a little bit further out on this side than that side, so what I could do is come back in here and kind of just cut off a little bit more so it's a little bit more centered. Yeah, that looks much better. All right, now next thing I want to do is I want to use my Wink of Stella. So I'm going to take my Wink of Stella brush and I'm just going to paint the edges because the edges are going to poke out a little bit from behind that piece of vellum. And you can kind of see, hopefully, it's a little bit, well, you can't really see. Anyway, it's a little bit sparkly right there, so just take my word for it. All right, now we want to adhere this to that, and we're going to use our mini glue dots. Now, I will tell you that you want to use at least 2 glue dots in order to prevent the vellum from pivoting. So I'm going to use one right here. I'm going to try to put it behind that E. And then I'm going to put one over here behind that P. All right, so that way it kind of masks and you can't see it as well. But basically I've got one glue dot there, one glue dot there. Then I'm going to center it right. Come on, not exactly. Maybe it's better if I put it down and do it. Oh, I'm having trouble. Here we go. There, that looks better. All right, Boy, is that bright. Okay, it's kind of hard to see. Lots of light in there. Anyway, all right, so let me see if I can get that a little bit closer. You can kind of see this little edge right here is sparkly. That little edge right there is sparkly. Okay, now let's put this together. Okay, I am going to use a product that is retired, but it is very similar to the tear and tape that we have. I just happen to have some of the fast fuse left. And the reason why I'm going to use fast fuse, or you can use tear and tape, it's basically the same adhesive in my opinion, is because there's a lot going on with this card, and some of the cardstock is kind of heavy, particularly this snowflake. And so I want to make sure that it stays on. Before we put it all together, I forgot to do the inside of the card. All right, so, and I don't think I've shown that to you yet, but here it is. We use one stamp to do this up here, and then we're going to stamp off the page for these snowflakes and, of course, the sentiment. Now, these are photopolymer stamps, so I'm going to use a little sponging in the background, and I'm going to be stamping off the page or off the cardstock, so I want to put a little piece of scrap paper under there. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is to stamp this right here, and we're going to use this stamp, which is this right here. Go ahead and ink it up. That looks good. All right, oops. Oop. My dog, Riley, likes to sleep upstairs, and when he jumps off the bed, everybody that's downstairs likes to be excited about it. Okay, all right, so we're gonna just stamp this kind of off the page. We're gonna do it again. And I'm just gonna sort of line it up and kind of just barely go over. Oh, yay. All right, so that is stamped. Now, I'm gonna show you a little trick on doing these snowflakes. You could individually put each snowflake on a block, individually stamp them off, but I want to kind of do this in a fast way. So just kind of looking here what I've got here. I've got the big stamp. Now you want to make sure that your stamps are clean before you do this. I'm going to lay this down here, kind of where I want it. Have him kind of stamped off a little bit off the page, off the cardstock. And then this guy, I want him right here. And then this one, I want him right there. Now, with those laid down, I can take a block here and then pick it up. And then basically, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do one stamp at once, so I don't have to stamp 3 different stamps, if that makes sense. All right, so then I just sort of line it up and stamp. Ta-da! And then if I was doing multiple, then I'd just keep, you know, restamping basically in the same spot. The only thing I have left is the sentiment, which says, that's for the outside. This says, each snowflake is a beautiful, sparkly, and special, just like you. And then I'm gonna kind of make sure I get this guy on straight, which is when grid paper comes in handy. I line him up against the grid paper, and then that kind of helps my eye guide where it needs to be straight. Here we go. Ta-da! Okay, all of the pieces are complete. Now we're just gonna put the card together. So let's put the inside in first. For this, you can use your snail because it's not very heavy. Here we go. Okay. Then I find that it's best to put the background down first and then build all this up and then adhere it to the background, because if you build it all up and then turn the paper over and then try to put your adhesive on there, it's not going to be even. So I always find it's easier if you just adhere this down first. And so I'm going to use my fast fuse, or again you can use your tear and tape. You could use snail, but I think that the snail is not going to be strong enough to hold all of these heavy layers on your card. So my advice is to go with a stronger adhesive. Now, with the stronger adhesive, you have to make sure that you have it just lined up so. This white paper is distracting me, so... Oh, wait a minute. Did I not cut this right? You know what? I think this is too long. Okay, hold on. Let me trim it before we put it down. Yeah, it is too long. Okay, hold on. Okay, now that I've cut this down, I'm going to go ahead and adhere it. Okay, now to build up the rest of the card. Okay, so we need our tree. Okay, so we're going to put the tree like so, and then we're going to put this on top of that. So again, I'm going to use the fast fuse, and I'm going to apply the adhesive on the back of the tree, because I don't want to put it on the glimmer paper and then accidentally get it on the place where the glimmer paper is going to show through. So I'm going to put it on the tips of the tree, and then I'm going to place this where I want it. Okay. All right, then I'm going to place this guy right there. Again, I'm going to put it on the back of this. All right, and then this is actually, it's been, wow, where's my words today? I've raised it up with some dimensional dots, so that's what we're going to put on here. All right, now we're ready to place it down on the card. There you go. Lovely. All right, let me turn the camera up. All right, there you have it. I hope you have enjoyed this video tutorial using our Snow is Glistening stamp set and the beautiful buffalo check background stamp. As I mentioned before, oh, there's Riley. There's my baby boy. As I mentioned before, I am having another swap coming up. We had really great success with our Christmas card swap, and so now we're going to be hosting a thank you swap, and that's basically to help everybody get in gear to make thank you cards for all of the wonderful gifts that you may be exchanging over the Christmas holiday. I will put a link down below on where you can get information on how you can participate in that swap. Basically what it is that you create 5 cards, all of the same design, and you send those cards to me, and then I basically take everybody's cards, swap them out, and then you get 5 different beautiful thank you cards back in the mail, empty or blank, for you to be able to send to your friends and family. I hope you all had a fabulous Thanksgiving holiday. I know I did, and I'm all into making more Christmas cards as we get closer into the season. All right, please do me a favor. If you thought this tutorial was helpful, please give me a thumbs up and do subscribe. You can click that bell. I'm not sure which side of the screen it's going to show up on for you, but click that bell and then you'll get notified every time I upload a new video. All right, I hope everybody enjoyed themselves. Life happens. I comment. Stamp me some love. Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.